Very good morning to everyone. When there is sharing of electrons between the like atoms, the electrons are shared equally. But when they are shared between the atoms of two different electronegativities, it gives rise to polarity in the molecule. This polarity in the molecule is measured by dipole moment. What is dipole moment? When it occurs, it occurs when there is a separation of the charge. The first thing, the molecule should have the charge and they should be separated. This charge separation occurs when there are two ions. One may be cation, another is anion. In ionic bonds, the charge separation possibility is there. The charge separation possibility is there when the electrons are shared between the two atoms of different electronegativities in a covalent bond. What is electronegativity? It is the tendency of an atom to keep its electrons with itself. It is a miser attitude of the atom. We have electrons or we have money and we don't want to share it with others, then I become a miser. The money should be generated and it should be distributed. Then only the system becomes stable. When money is generated and I keep it with myself, I become the reason for instability in the system. That's why the government has introduced the tax system. When we have the more talent, we generate more money. The one who has less talent will generate less money. What government does? Government takes the excess tax from whom they have excess money and they distribute to the others who have lesser money so that system is stable. And when it is not done, there will be polarity in the system. The rich will become richer, the poor will become poorer. And then in this parity exists for the longer time in the larger form, it gives rise to instability in the system. Here also in the molecules, these will be instability or instability. The larger the difference between the electronegativity, larger will be the dipole moment. It causes momentum. The distance between the charge separation is the deciding factor for the size of the dipole moment. Higher the distance, higher the dipole moment. In other words, dipole moment is a measure of the polarity of the molecule. Dipole moment is defined as the product of magnitude of charges and the distance between them. This is denoted by mu and it is measured by d by units. It is represented as d. Mathematically, dipole moment is expressed as mu is equal to q into r. Q is the magnitude of charges, r is the distance between these charges. The product of q into r is dipole moment. Dipole moment is a vector quantity. Vector means which has both magnitude and direction. If there is higher amount of energy difference or the charge difference and higher the charge separation, larger the charge separation, it won't mean that it has higher dipole moment. The direction of this charge separation also plays a role in the dipole moment of the molecule. Polarity is in turn decided by the structure of the molecule. The direction of separation of the charges also plays a role. For example, the shape of the molecule determines the overall polarity. Molecule with polar bonds having a different shape will have different polarity. For example, carbon dioxide. Carbon is flanked between two oxygen which is having the double bond, and here they are in opposite. This oxygen pulls the electrons towards itself, and the opposite oxygen pulls the electrons towards itself. Both the charge separation here also it is taking place, and the opposite side also it is taking place, and one cancels with other. That's why the net dipole moment is zero in carbon dioxide. Whereas, because it has the oxygens are on opposite sides to each other. Whereas in case of water molecule, oxygen is in between, and the oxygen and hydrogen is in the other way, opposite side, and both hydrogens are on the same side. The oxygen pulls the electrons from the hydrogen here, and this pulls the electrons from the hydrogen from the same direction. Both are in the same direction, and that's why it magnifies. That's why net dipole moment becomes double. The dipole moment in water molecule mu is found to be 1.84 d by units. That's why overall polarity of the molecule not only depends upon the magnitude of the charges and the separation, but also in the direction of the separation. This disparity in the sharing of electrons between the atoms of different electronegativities give rise to polarity to the molecule. Higher the polarity means it indicates that higher the polar molecule it is. Because of these differences in the polarity, because of the which is attributed to the electronegativity of the groups which is attached to it, it gives rise to a polarization, permanent polarization in the molecule. That gives the effect on the polarity of the molecule. What are these effects? Let us look into it. One effect what we see is inductive effect. This is a permanent polarization that occurs in the molecule due to presence of an electron withdrawing group or an electron donating group in the molecule. For example, this polarity is relayed through sigma bonds, and this inductive effect is given as I effect. It may be positive inductive effect or negative inductive effect, which is given as positive I or positive negative I effect. If I take a molecule propyl nitrate, the nitrogen in this is electronegative in nature. The carbon and nitrogen bond, this is electronegative, that's why it is more towards electrons are shared towards nitrogen, and that's why it becomes more electronegative. Once this is electronegative, what happens to the adjacent carbon? It becomes delta positive. This electrons on the carbon is is taken away from the nitrogen. That's why the carbon attached to nitrogen becomes electron deficient. As this become electron deficient, it cannot take from the nitrogen. That's why it pulls the electrons from the adjacent carbon. It makes it electron deficient. As this becomes electron deficient, it pulls from the adjacent carbon atom, and overall the molecule become electronegative. Similarly, this is called as negative inductive effect. Instead of an electron withdrawing group like nitro, if it has an electron donating group like amino, these electrons are given, excess electrons are given to carbon, which is adjacent to it, and this also gives the electrons to the adjacent carbon, and this also gives electrons to the overall. The whole system is becoming electron rich. This is called as positive inductive effect. In this case, the overall system becomes negative. It is something like the head of the organization is negative in nature, whole system becomes negative. If he is a positive natured person, the whole system becomes positive. That's why the head of the organization plays an important role in making the team or the environment positive or negative. Here, the effect is relayed through the sigma bonds which are present in the whole system. If there is an electron withdrawing group is there, it gives negative inductive effect. If an electron donating group is there, it gives a positive inductive effect. Inductive effect fades away with distance. It do not exist for more than 3 to 4 carbons. After that it fades away. That's why the first carbon is given as delta 3 plus. Here the second carbon delta 2 plus and the third carbon delta plus. Means as the distance increase from the electronegative group, the negative inductive effect fades away. Here, the positive inductive effect also fades away with the distance. This is the unique feature of inductive effect. In the next, we can look into the other effects due to the presence of an electron donating group or withdrawing group. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you.